So we are getting ready to leave our spot here in Rumney, New Hampshire. It has been an excellent stay here. We've been here for about a week. That is so much rock climbing that's walking distance from this site. So we've just been going every single day out and climbing pretty much. But today we're gonna be on our way, starting from here, driving through the White Mountains of New Hampshire on our way to Maine. So we're gonna take you along for the ride today and tell you about a few things that we wish we would have known when coming to visit this area.
So we have just left our campground and finally hitting the road. And this morning, as Bren and I were talking, we were talking about how the Northeast has definitely been a bit of a surprise to us in some factors that we've never heard elsewhere when we were looking at planning out our routes and things to do. So we thought it'd be really helpful to share some things that we have learned along the way that, yes, we knew there weren't going to be like a ton of boondocking options compared to the West Coast, but there's definitely been like a lot more surprises. I would say in particular, there was like 4 main things that we talked about that were surprises to us. And I will leave one bonus item at the very end for something that I would say is actually a very big plus about RVing the Northeast.
So the first number one thing on our list that we were surprised by is actually the lack of dump stations in the area. So I would say this includes dump stations, but also filling for water. Last year we did a 6-month trip and we did way more boondocking. So I think I was expecting that last year was going to be more difficult to find places to dump and fill, but it's been quite a challenge up here. So we are on our way to hopefully a dump site right now because we've got close to a full tank. We use iOverlander to find pins of where we can find dump spots, but they're not always accurate or up to date. So fingers crossed that this works out. But yeah, they've been way more sparse than we were expecting.
The dump stations have been, I will say this is something that is fun about going through the Northeast is how many covered bridges there are. This is actually, I think this is the first covered bridge, 14.2 clearance that were taken. Woo!
Yeah.
It's definitely been annoying to go through because we've never had an issue with finding dump stations. I mean, even on the West Coast, I think it was Washington, their rest areas had free dump stations. So I feel like it was actually pretty easy to find free dump stations to where now it's totally opposite.
Yeah, I feel like before, like in any given spot that we were at, even like really remote places, there was always an option, like a pin on the map, probably within 20 minutes. Here we've seen like, you know, maybe you have to drive 45 minutes to get somewhere. So we really have to plan more out of when we're gonna dump. Hopefully we can do it when we're getting to our next location so we can start off with an empty tank, but that's kind of what we plan on doing today.
I think the place that we're headed to, it's supposed to be $15 to dump and fill. And the last update that somebody went there was a year ago. So fingers crossed that this works out. Otherwise, I have zero idea where else we'll be dumping in this area of New Hampshire.
We have made it to the mobile gas station. Yes, there's a dump station, and my goodness, there's like so many motorcycles here at the same time that we put up. It was a little stressful, but let's go set up all the dump stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. It's $15.
This has been by far the best value of a dump station that we found in the entirety of the Northeast. So we're gonna call this one a win. And it's nice that iOverlander was updated. If you guys do use any of these apps and you find yourself at a dump station like this, always make sure I like to do my best job at making a post, making updates saying, yes, it's still functioning. Yes, the price is still $15. Because that can help all the other RVers that are out there that are trying to find a dump station, find a campground, and overall just find accurate information.
Because to be fair, we don't know necessarily that there aren't a lot of dump stations in the area, but there's just not a lot of pins and it's hard to find. So if we could all do our part and share what we find.
Yeah, like the place that we dumped at in Stowe, Vermont, it wasn't marked on Campendium or iOverlander or any of our normal sites we look at. I asked our Harvest host, she recommended the spot, so then I went ahead and I submitted a pin on both apps. So if you find a place, don't gatekeep, share for the rest of us.
Thinking on the inside.
Oh yeah, I could...
The valve's cracked right there.
Oh.
Oh boy.
Why? You must have hit it driving. A crack in our black tank? That's new. What I'm gonna say happened is when we were driving, our dump here, this is arguably the lowest point of the RV, so we must have hit that somewhere, and that probably pulled and then caused a crack in there. So now we got poopy in there.
Fun stuff.
Well, that's why you got gloves. Can you get that sewer cap out that's holding? So Brendan cleared everything out of there, so I could probably give you a cleaner look at what's broken. Right here, that silver, that is cracked. So right in the middle, that is where the plastic is cracked and separated. So this top part is where our gray water comes from, and this side is where our black tank comes from. So that is what's dripping and leading to all this disgustingness. So since we need to dump, I think our temporary fix is we have a Turnabond.
I'm gonna do my best. Try to seal it up as good as we got. This is the, I feel like this could be like the flex tape infomercial. See if this holds.
So the fix did not work, and that is
Our current situation of it just dumping out from inside.
Brendan and I were just laughing to ourselves of this an even better reason why a dry flush might be superior. This is just disgusting. Man, we have had stuff go wrong on the road. We've had our starter die, catalytic converter die. We've had some roof leakage, slide out leakage, but the black tank, anything to be wrong with the black tank is 100% new to us. So we got it all. You can see all the water from us hosing off everything, but everything is put away and fine. I think we've identified we need to get a new black tank handle pull. That seems to be the part that cracked.
You know, I feel like as I think about it, I don't think it's the valve itself, like the part that you pull, because it's not actively leaking, which means that we can still use it in the meantime, and we have about a week's worth of buffer to fix this problem before we got to dump again. But
I don't think we can. I don't know if we can use it, because I think the issue is on the valve pull. There's like two ends, and I think one of the ends is cracked. So if we were to use it, you're gonna have to remove that piece anyway to replace it.
Probably be a better idea not to use it, but we'll see what kind of parts or whatever we can find.
When you're up in the mountains.
Might change our travel plans a little bit.
Yeah, this is entirely new to us. So not ideal, but you know what? I would totally rather have like a black tank related issue rather than an engine issue. We can still get to wherever we need to go. So
our engine might need some love too.
That's another story. All right. Onward.
So dumping is done. If you want to see how we resolve our black tank issue, stay tuned to next week's video. I'm excited to see it too, because I'm curious how we're going to fix this thing. So if you aren't already, do subscribe to the channel so that way you can keep up with our travels and how we fix everyday problems just like this one.
Realistic look at living in an RV. It's not all sunshine.
But I mean, our black tank's broken, but look at this view. It is so stunning in the Northeast.
The second thing that I want to highlight when in regards to RVing the Northeast of the United States is big rig availability. It's been pretty sparse. We by no means have a big rig by definition. We are 27 feet in length. However, for a bit, we were caravanning with some friends that have just about the biggest rig you could have, which was a 42-foot fifth wheel. And I think they had a 2,500 dually. So the truck, the trailer, I mean, the whole setup had to be over 60 feet. So looking at RV sites, they're looking for RV sites that can accommodate 40-foot plus rigs. And it was really difficult for us to find places that we could stay at together. Ultimately, we were able to, but we kind of had to justify
exactly where we wanted to stay in order to accommodate that. And we were actually hoping to continue caravanning through Vermont. And the last place we stayed together was in Lake Placid, New York, as that was the last area that we were able to find a spot that we could both stay together. As soon as we crossed over into Vermont, there was just very, very slim to none big rig availability. And I would say the areas that did have availability for them at a fair cost were relatively far from any of the attractions that we wanted to see, or the areas that we wanted to be in, places like Stowe, Burlington, and even making our way into New Hampshire. So they ended up flying through a lot of these northeastern states because the availability was a bit tough for them. So the third point I want to highlight is definitely slightly related to the second, in that just overall, there is not many camping or boondocking options. So even though we said bye to our friends in upstate New York, as we left them and continued to Vermont and New Hampshire, we still had difficulty as a 27-foot C-class in finding availability. When we look at campgrounds, we've been looking at Harvest Host, Campendium, any boondocking options on iOverlander, and honestly, they are pretty sparse. And this is also including, I would say, private campgrounds. There are private campgrounds in the area, but there's not a ton. And even the ones that are there, they tend to have a hefty price tag. I would say the average cost from what we've been seeing of campgrounds up in the Northeast is probably between $60 and $85 a night. But for us, full timing, that $60 to $85 range per night, that's pretty expensive. A lot of the campgrounds we tend to stay at are probably more so about $30 to $40 a night. If we're paying otherwise, it's going to be a Harvest Host or a boondocking option. So we've been a bit creative in finding some Harvest Hosts along the way. The place that we just came from was actually like a climber's campground. It was very much so off the beaten path. So I would say we've had to be creative in finding places for us to stay in the Northeast. So if you are planning a trip and you don't full time, I would highly recommend have some sort of game plan of where you're going to be staying before you hit the road. This is totally not the type of place that you want to say, let's just hit the road and when we get tired, we'll find a campground. You might find yourself in a pinch if this is your approach. If you do that in the Southeast and the West, you could probably get away with it. In the Northeast, rest areas are slim, campgrounds are slim. So definitely plan accordingly. My last gripe with the Northeast, before we get into the good stuff, because I promise you there is absolute good stuff to share, but my last gripe is that it is expensive up here.
Yeah, I feel like we have heard that it can be more expensive than other areas, but honestly, like, I feel like Gabby and I find ourselves going to expensive places and always finding deals and finding cheaper ways to do stuff. But it's been tough to do that here. I think a good example of that is we default to boondocking or Harvest Host for sure, because those are the cheapest options for accommodations. If those aren't available, we typically look at state parks, which tend to be like very affordable. And I would say in other places that we've been, state parks can be as cheap as like 20 bucks a night. I would say like 20 to $40 a night, like maybe 30 being the average. And all the state parks that we've seen here have been like over $50, which isn't like an insane amount of money, but I thought there was just a standard of state parks across the country of kind of what they cost. But it's just kind of an indication of how pricey things are in the area.
So those are, I would say, our main gripes that we have with the Northeast. But the Northeast offers so much. And at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I was going to say one big call out of a huge pro of this area is genuinely just the raw beauty. I mean, just like this drive that we're currently going on through, for short, the Kank in New Hampshire is just stunning. I mean, it's not prime fall right now, but just some of the leaf color change that you're able to see. And in the areas that we've been, I feel like there's been so many like remote areas of just like so much beauty in this region that is so underrated. For so many of the areas that we've been to in the West, I feel like the West has a lot of hype and you expect it to be epic, to where when we came to the Northeast, we didn't have those expectations. But
I would say I had like pretty low expectations.
For sure. Roughly 85% of the state of New Hampshire is forest. And it's true. It's technically, I think, 84%, and it's the second most forested state in the country. Number one is Maine, and that's at 89%. So, I mean, these areas just have so much nature, very small human population. So a lot of the stuff is untouched.
Yeah, I think Gabby said it really well. One thing to add is just acknowledging that like everything that we love about it up here, like the natural beauty and like how awesome it is to drive and spend time in like remote places and just really appreciate the outdoors. That's exactly why it has all of the cons too. It's like harder to access, the prices are higher because there's not as much up here. So overall, I would say like even though we have this list of cons and like these things that we weren't expecting when coming to visit the Northeast, I would 100% come again. Definitely it seems like fall is like the best time to come, but I'm sure summers here are beautiful. You can kind of escape some of the heat by getting up at some elevation. We've personally loved rock climbing in the area, but just kind of acknowledging that there's trade-offs for everything. There's pros and cons to anywhere you go.
Overall, Northeast is amazing. I would highly recommend, if you have the opportunity to be able to experience fall in the Northeast, to just do it. If you're renting a camper, if you're just coming out here in a hotel or Airbnb, there's so many ways you can do it, but it is just so stunning. And the drives and the views that you get. I mean, even this video, like, I feel like the backgrounds and stuff of just everywhere we've been driving has just been so beautiful. So overall, the Northeast, it has its gripes, but arguably any place you go to does. So it's been such a good journey so far. And guys, we do have our one problem of our black tank that we will be fixing. So stay tuned to next week's video. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up as it helps expand reach of our channel. And we'll catch you next week.